I know. I really want to stack my one paper.
Yeah, exactly.
One paper.
All right, back to the discussion.
A little bit of marketing ASMR over here.
Yeah.
Get the...
Tabbing.
Hey there, welcome to the first ever Brandastic roundtable discussion. My name is Daniel, and I am joined here today by Megan, Stacey, and Melissa. And we are going to talk today a little bit about Instagram and why we think it's useful for your business and your personal brand to grow engagement. So welcome everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great to be here. And I thought we would start off with just a couple of little stats because it's 2019 to show how far Instagram's come, if that's okay. And I have a handy dandy little sheet here to work from, so we'll use this. So Instagram started in 2010, and as of 2018, it had reached 1 billion users. So that's a very fast trajectory, and we'll talk about when we all joined Instagram to get a bit of context. And today there are over 500 million people per day using the platform. So it just gives you an idea how much engagement it's getting, but it's definitely a part of not just our lives, but culture in general. I think we can really see that that's become how we live our lives is through Instagram in some ways.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So to start with, I was interested to hear how, when you joined Instagram, what you thought of Instagram when you started. I'd love to hear.
Do you want to go first?
I dabbled in Instagram 2012 in my college dorm, and I got some really great photos in the beginning of a nice beach scene outside my dorm. Put a lot of filters on it, just kind of went a little nuts with it.
Different
got
favorite filter?
Yeah, 1 or 2 likes.
Yeah.
My likes have increased over the years, fortunately. Saw it as a very artistic outlet to post, and I remember thinking it was much more of a place to edit and filter photos rather than a place to be seeing other people's content. It was more like, let's make my photo look interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the most iconic early Instagram photos is the Starbucks cup.
Yeah.
Everyone holding the Starbucks cup, it's on your desk, it's on, so many over-filtered Starbucks cup images.
I definitely took a photo myself at Starbucks, one of the first 5 photos.
Absolutely.
That was 2011, I think.
It was very heavy on that lo-fi filter.
Lo-fi.
Expro 2.
They still have it.
With the border. We had the border around all the photos. Yeah, very moody.
What was the one that had numbers like it was an
It
old
looked like
camera?
an old, I don't know.
I used that a time or two.
My sister actually told me that Clarendon was my filter. That was the, she said, just use that every time. I said, okay. So everything was just Clarendon for 8 months, and then I ventured out. Very cool. When did you join Instagram?
Probably 2012.
2012.
I would say. Yeah, probably around 2012. I was still in high school, my last year of high school. There are just lots of Starbucks images, football games, just super saturated, just edited images. And I was probably posting once every 2 weeks. It wasn't something that you posted on every day. I think it was used for a lot, just you get a good image, you want to post it. It was pretty casual, and 2 likes. But that didn't matter.
No,
that was not important.
But
it was not important in the early
you only
days.
had so many followers. So if you got, I remember once it hit the double digit, you're like, I made it.
Yeah.
I'm here.
11 likes? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That was crazy.
That was let's just retire now. I'm an influencer.
I don't remember when they activated the Explore feed or anything like that, but I don't remember how, we only were friends or followers with our friends or our contacts or Facebook friends.
Right.
There was no this influencer who has 100 people and they have this specific brand. That's just so cool. I'm going to follow them. That didn't come until I want to assume a couple of years later.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that existed. One of my friends showed me that you can actually see people who aren't your friends. I just used to look at the feed, and that was it was kind of boring in a way. It was just 8 or 10 people that you knew would just post something every couple of days.
Yeah.
and then you'd go away.
It was it's kind of like Snapchat, where it really felt isolated, where you kind of felt like your niche community was very much just friends and family, kind of like how Facebook started initially too. And then I don't know, the more people who came, the more it felt like you were it was turning into something where it's I'm seeing more people of the world, and rather than just my college or my work or my family.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And then remember, like 2 years after, we started getting into like pick stitch and like making collages.
Oh my
Yeah.
Which are coming back by the way.
Oh, yeah.
They're coming back.
That had a big peak, and
Yeah.
then
Right.
it had a precipitous decline, and now it's coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. There still is a separate app, I think, for like has all the different.
Yeah, it's like Instagram owned.
Yeah.
It's like all part of the same family. They all have very similar branding.
Yeah.
So it's the Boomerang has its own app, the Collage has its own app,
yeah.
and then Instagram has its own app. So it's
That's
like the three of them interact together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Which you don't even need the apps to do that kind of stuff. You can still do it on
Inside.
Instagram, but I think the Collage one isn't quite on Instagram yet.
Yeah.
But
no.
yeah, Boomerang you don't need the app for. You know, you can just do that on Instagram.
Now there's so many templates, and we can talk about this in a little bit, but it's becoming more and more design oriented.
Absolutely.
So people are putting not only in their feed but their stories more intricate designed templates. So it's kind of throwback to pick stitch, right? And
Absolutely.
collage like photos, but more designed out and like on trend with whatever design people love right now or whatever brand they're trying to portray through their design. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
people have, businesses where they just create Instagram templates and
That's it.
sell Instagram templates, and they make a great living just
Yeah.
by designing templates for this app, which is crazy. I mean, the app is huge, and that would not have worked back in 2012
Yeah.
like it is now.
It's
no,
insane.
Yeah.
so
And
different.
It's so funny how it's just crept into our lives. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember, I think I joined 2014, so I was pretty late, and I
Mhm.
refused to join for a while because it was all people taking selfies, and no, I'm not doing that. And then finally, I was, okay, fine, I'll join. But I think that, especially for me, the last year and a half, I've really noticed how much everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, everywhere you go, if you have a look at what people are looking at on their phone, without being creepy, you can see everyone's using
Everyone's
Instagram.
on Instagram.
It's insane.
Even the least suspecting organizations and businesses have an Instagram account,
Right.
like your dentist or something.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I mean, cool. You kind of need it now to be relevant, and people look at that even when it's like, gas station.
Yeah.
Which I think is a testament to visuals. People are really, especially with video, I think it's what's put Instagram potentially like ahead of Facebook is that, and even though Facebook has video content and visual content, it's less, there's more focus with Instagram.
Yeah.
You're kind of locked in onto a couple images or videos at a time, and people enjoy that, and it's just like always you will be stuck on Instagram for hours, whereas Facebook, it's almost so distracting that you will just potentially tap out. So I think with video, it's made it even more of a valuable platform for everybody.
Definitely.
Really.
There's always somewhere else to go on Instagram.
Mhm.
Like
Right.
you see an image, you like the image, you click on it, someone else is tagged in the image or a product is tagged in that image, you click on that, and you just keep going deeper and deeper, and then you realize 2 hours have gone by and you are in this whole new space on Instagram that you didn't even know existed before. It's pretty endless.
Yeah.
Well, that brings me to another stat, which was that the average user spends 53 minutes a day on Instagram.
Wow.
Now,
I
and that's
believe that.
equal with
I
Facebook.
do believe
Yeah.
that, yes.
Yeah, it's crazy. And apparently Facebook's the same. So the Facebook app is 53 minutes and Instagram is
Really?
53 minutes
Wow.
as well. So you're just wasting 2 hours of your day in the Facebook, I don't know, what do you say, nexus.
I
because
tap
own
out on
Instagram.
Facebook so fast.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just too much.
It's where I go when I've already looked at everything on
Yeah,
Instagram.
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I catch
exactly.
up with my mom on that.
Yeah.
Like, what's my mom doing?
Yeah.
That's about it.
It's where we keep tabs of our family members, as everyone's safe, everyone's checked
Right,
in.
right.
And you do a happy birthday.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
happy
Oh,
birthday.
yeah.
It's life
Very
savers.
important.
Yeah,
Very
life
Yeah.
savers.
Well, I think the biggest difference is if you look at Facebook, you can share links, right? So I can post a YouTube video to Facebook, I can post an article, whatever. But with Instagram, it is curated. You have to have the photo loaded up into the Instagram app. The video has to be loaded up. You can't. You can only link in your bio, so it limits the amount of actual stuff that you can share. And I think that stops it being spammy.
Right.
Yes.
That's why it's so deliberately curated. And it does feel like that. I know if I go on Instagram, I mean, yes, there's spammy accounts now, but overall, it's going to be a more kind of, I don't know, curated experience. It's going to have more meaning to me, based on what I'm interested in, versus Facebook. Who knows what someone will post? It's just random on the day. So it's kind of it's almost overwhelming with Facebook. You just kind of brush through quickly, whereas Instagram, you do stop and have a look.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So, and that was a question I had, is what do you think are the biggest differences if you look at all the other platforms? So you have, let's say Twitter, Snapchat, even YouTube is a social media platform in some ways. What is it about Instagram that makes it so different in your opinions?
I think the engagement factor of Instagram really kind of separates it from something like Snapchat.
Yeah.
I think Snapchat is kind of on its way out, especially with the introduction of Insta Stories. It basically is just having Snapchat all in the same place, all on Instagram already.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It just feels like it's kind of fading out. But just I think the engagement on Instagram is a lot stronger than on any other platform because you can direct message anyone on Instagram and you can get that kind of engagement there as long as you're not, you yourself aren't being spammy.
Yeah.
You can get that communication and through hashtags.
Story DMs.
Yeah, there are just so many avenues for engagement on Instagram that I think not all of the other apps have, and I think that's important.
For sure.
Especially for businesses.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think ease of the app and the spontaneity behind it too. If you do feel like posting a story or a boomerang or any of that takes a matter of seconds to put something together. I mean, I tend to even gravitate more toward just posting stories rather than a post. And sometimes the post takes that caption effort and there's that whole other layer of stress. So now I'm I'm just going to post a story, throw it together, and it's an online community in a sense. You go on and you know that your closest friends have some kind of story or something happened in the past 24 hours. So you're keeping up to speed with your day-to-day.
I think it has to do a lot with the generations that are using Instagram. It's a lot of millennial and below. There's obviously a large amount of people who are older as well using it, and I encourage that. But I think a lot of the younger generations who are also full-time working and who want to spend their money, i.e. why businesses are trying to get on there, are kind of in a different mindset, I think, than what Facebook has become and what Facebook the stigma around Facebook and how it's kind of grown to be very news-oriented or kind of just the more negative side of things can be portrayed on Facebook, and so that's why people are tapping out to kind of focus on more positive things, which I think Instagram enhances that. Also, I mean, obviously there's going to be some stigma with Instagram, I'm sure. I mean, there's been a ton of changes recently in the community and algorithms that people are frustrated with, or there's a lot of still negatives, but at the same time, I think the generations using Instagram are bringing a fresh design perspective. It's visually enticing more than Facebook, I personally believe, and it's sort of forcing you to be focused on one task, ironically, even though there's a lot going on, which I think really allows people to engage with content. They're forced to really focus on one video or one image at a time and be engaged with it. So
how do you guys feel about the ads on Instagram versus seeing that same ad on Facebook? I know how I feel with seeing ads on Instagram, and I tend to gravitate toward ads on that platform in a different way than I would on Facebook. So I want your opinion on seeing ads.
I am such an ad clicker on Instagram. I swear, you guys, I don't know what is happening, but they know me so well.
Yeah.
Now, I know there's, what's it called? When you visit a website, or Facebook and Instagram are following us, and it's scary.
Yeah.
Retargeting.
Yes.
I love it and I hate it, but I honestly to have something know me so well and the products that I love, and then give me an ad where the ad, and this is important, your ad should always be relevant to the platform. So if you have a really cold, structured, sort of scientific ad on Instagram, it may not go well. I mean, depends on your industry, but I feel like the ads on Instagram are so realistic to what people follow post. They're so down to earth and talking to me and just giving me something interesting to see or shocking to see that I don't even notice that it's a sponsored or ad. There's a little tiny text at the top that says ad, and I'm just is this an ad or am I following this person?
Yeah.
Right.
And then it's a product. I've bought in so many products through Instagram, not Instagram checkout, but through Instagram ads, I have bought purchased and will be purchasing products that I already know I want. So even though I haven't purchased directly from that ad, I've clicked it and I've seen it and I'm like, okay, it's in my peripheral vision. Like, I'm going to come back to this company later and get that product because I was really, I enjoyed it and it was pertaining to my interests. So
yeah, and I think that's important too. Like what you said about how the ad doesn't even look really like an ad. It looks like something that is just like fluid with your Instagram feed, and I think that's super important when designing ads for Instagram, because if it looks super like technical or even spammy, like you're really trying to sell something, people are going to ignore it because it's going to be out of place. It's not going to feel right. But if it's something that really just fits in with your feed, you're going to get a lot of more engagement on that. Like I'm an ad clicker too. I go all the way through. I click on so many ads, and it is pretty crazy how like it knows what you like want to see. Like Melissa and I were having a conversation the other day because we're in the same office. We were having a conversation about Special K or like Kellogg's cereal, and the next day I got an ad for Kellogg's, which is so weird because like that's not like a normal like part of my life, like Kellogg's cereal. And so we were talking about it and it popped up, but I didn't even notice at first. I was scrolling and I was like, that's a cool image. Like it was just like kind of a bright, fun, airy image, and then I stopped for a second and I was like, oh my God, it's there because we were having this conversation about it.
Instagram.
Yeah, and then that involves the whole listening.
Right.
Which is a separate
because I did not
table.
type Special K in anywhere on my phone, my computer. It was just a quick conversation, and there that ad was the next day. But it was funny that I didn't even notice at first. It just kind of fit into my feed, and it took me a second to be like, oh, we just talked about this. But I mean, that's great for ads because you're talking about it. You're like, oh, maybe I want to buy that or something. The ad pops up. It's nicely designed. You get those click-throughs, and then you get people purchasing your product, which is pretty crazy and advanced, especially for a social media app.
It is. It's crazy how much that the brand trust of Instagram itself kind of it washes over into the ads. So it's almost like you trust the ads a little bit more because you trust the platform. Whereas with Facebook, you definitely have almost like a cynicism when you go on there. You're like, all right, fine, I'm going to go on Facebook.
Yeah.
And there's going to be ads everywhere. So you're ready to kind of ignore them. Whereas Instagram, they almost catch you off guard. Oh, look at that. And you're right, it is so targeted to your demographic and what you are interested, like creepily you're interested in. That you go, actually, I want to look at that. So
I think these platforms that do push ads because they have to make revenue, like let's all remember that it's free to sign up for Instagram. It's free to sign up for Facebook. It's free to even have a channel on YouTube, and yes, they control the algorithms, but at the end of the day, like they're not charging you to put your content up there. That is free marketing that you have control over. Yes, you have to learn about the algorithms, but at the end of the day, like this is not what marketing was back then. I'm pretty sure like everything was money, and it's still money, but at the same time, it's never been easier to get ads or influencers or your content to people in a free or low budget way. So I just feel like if I had to tier ads, like the best ads would be like Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. YouTube, like we're all kind of like, we'll get through it. I'll look at an ad for to be able to be on this platform. And then like website ads are kind of like, those like embedded ads or whatever that kind of flash up and you're like, oh, that's distracting me. Those work, but I feel like people are more inclined to enjoy ads on the social platforms because we're more willing to get past them or kind of, I don't know, experience them.
It's kind of, it's like a price of entry, right? Because it's free, so you kind of accept it. It's like the trailers before a movie. You kind of go, okay, I've got to sit through this. Then I stick a movie on and see, but it's kind of, in a lot of respects, it is entertaining because people put a lot of work into the creative on the platform as well.
Absolutely.
So, the one question I had was around posting on Instagram, and I was just interested to get everyone's perspective on, because you have the feed and then you have stories, right? So the feed is more of the conventional photos, 1-minute videos, it can even be text, images, whatever. How much, both for business and also personally, how much do you post per week? And how much do you think businesses should post just in the feed? And then we'll talk about stories separately.
Well,
go ahead. You go.
I can attest to at least me. I post very infrequently on my feed. it does feel like an environment where you do have to kind of be a photographer. Like everyone's a photographer now. I don't know how you photographers are dealing with it, but I mean, it's great. We're all really learning how to be really good photographers or do editing. But for me, I know I'm a very like low experienced photographer. I entrust that to other people, but I do like the setup of a post. And so whenever I do a post, I kind of just on my personal profile, I leave room for casualty. I'm not like a influencer, so I'm not really trying to sell anything. But for businesses or brands that I handle social media for, I come into that mindset. I'm like, I'm a brand, I want to give valuable content, and I want it to be fun and engaging and not too salesy where it really puts people off. So I do kind of wear two different hats here, where obviously in my personal life I can kind of do whatever I want on my feed, and I post very regularly, probably only a couple times a month. With brands and businesses, it really just depends on the business. But honestly, it could be anything. It could be 3 times a day to like 3 times a week. It just really depends on the type of business you are and how much income you can, how much budget you can focus on that area. Because the more you post, the more content you have to create, and it better be good content. So I feel like even if you have to do less, it should be really good. It should be your photography, your products, your voice, and your your engagement with your community, rather than posting 3 times a day and it being really terrible looking. So that's kind of my stance on business posting and what to do with that.
And that brings up a really good point, that I think the feed is more curated, so it is, I almost think of it like a museum, right? It's the pieces that you want to have there forever, and sometimes you do archive them or whatever, but if you post something, it kind of has a permanence about it. Maybe not so much for business, I know that can change a bit, but you definitely have this idea that, okay, I'm posting this up and it's going to go into my profile, whereas stories is the total reverse of that. But
yeah, I don't know if I necessarily have an opinion on the frequency throughout the week, but I just do know you want to post enough so that if people do stumble onto your Instagram page, for example, that you have a plethora of content for like an easy scroll for them to be able to see like, wow, this is a legitimate company, they've got a lot going on, cool. They may not even end up clicking on a photo, but at least they can just have a quick assessment that this is legit, essentially. And I know I do that with a lot of companies, just seeing there's a presence there and there's a culture, that speaks volumes to me.
It always catches me off guard if I go to scroll and it doesn't scroll.
Yeah.
And there's like, they only have like the 12 images or something. I'm like, I'm like, I feel like I have to like refresh the app. I'm like, there's no way there's only 12 images. And so that always catches me off guard. So even if it's just like a little scroll, as long as there's like a scroll there, you kind of feel like, okay, they have content, they have stuff. Yeah.
Which I would say as a business, if, business tip here for Instagram, we've had clients who have never had an Instagram account, and so we really planned out a plethora of images, like Melissa mentioned, to start gaining that feed look, so it doesn't look like you're a spam or a robot account, because people, if you follow other people and they're like, this person only has 1 image or 0 images, they're spam, they're a robot, I'm not going to follow back, or I'm going to block them. So I would say don't let that scare you, because I understand it takes time and effort to put together imagery or posts, but I think at the beginning you don't need to be super editorial about it. You don't need to be super restrictive, because you are just starting out. So plan out at least, 12 images or whatever to get at least 3, we call it grid, 3 sets of images, and then just start kind of posting frequently and gain your, fellowship over time. And it will happen. Just be aware that if you only post 2 posts, people might be like, what's going on? And make sure your profile content sounds like a real person. It doesn't have just a link or just a phone number, because that looks super spammy too. So just make sure that, you make it look like a human created this account.
Yeah, and the problem is if you have 2 or 3 posts, and even within that post you have this amazing product, or you've got this one-of-a-kind feature, people usually aren't spending the time to even really dive into that. So be more concerned with just having a presence there, and less concerned about the 1 or 2 posts that have this crazy thing, because people could likely be turned off right away just by seeing a very small feed and then not even give that thing a shot.
So true. Was our design expert, do you have any tips for Instagram for the feed?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most important thing is keeping it consistent. So high quality images, you don't want to mix it up with, you have a high quality image and then a low quality image, and that's just, it's super inconsistent, and low quality images just kind of feel like you're not putting a lot of effort into what you're talking about or what you're posting about. So I think consistency in lighting, even, having like a super shadowy photo with like a bright airy one might not, have that feel. So just know what you want to post about, post it consistently, and kind of have like a photography feel for what you're going for. If you want to be light and airy, dark and moody, either direction is fine. It's just pick one that you want to go with and be consistent with it. And I think that's the most important thing. Yeah. And I know that there's like imagery and then text photos. So you have kind of just like a plain background with text written over it, which I think is great for Instagram. It's like a quick read where people aren't even really in the captions. They're just reading the quote, which I think can be really strong. You just have to find a way that it works in your feed, where if you want to do every post like that, fine. But I would suggest not doing like 2 images and then a quote and then 5 images and then a quote. Kind of find a way where you're doing it consistently. I follow quite a few accounts where it's quote, image. It's just like that one-to-one grid, and it's really successful. You just have to find a way that works for your audience, I think.
100%.
Yeah.
And I would add too, as a writer, it's really tempting on Instagram just to focus on the image or the video that you're posting, but what you write in the caption really engages. So I noticed that you can have a very plain image and the context can change a lot just by what you write.
Absolutely.
So that's really key too, is to think about, what am I actually saying about this? Does it have value to say more in the caption? Don't just post images. Because I think it's a trap some people fall into.
People are
so
definitely reading captions. So
don't
ever like think that, oh, it's just the visuals, I don't have to post any hashtags or words. But
hashtag, like, that's how people find you.
People are reading, so and it's because we're so used to the visuals that we're wanting to hear the voice behind the post. So we want to know what the brand sounds like. We want to know what the business sounds like. We want to know, because brand and user relationships are closer than ever. It's like it needs to be 2 humans in a room rather than like a company and then a person. So your company voice on your Instagram should always sound like it's coming from like 1 or 2 people, and the voice is consistent all the time. So if you're really casual and you're really funny and you're making jokes, keep the same tone, because the next post you make that's super professional and like tactical sounding is going to be very off-putting, and just people are not sure who you are. So you kind of want to make sure that your voice and your words are relevant to the photography or imagery that you're choosing, and everything's cohesive to your brand voice.
That's like Wendy's, whoever does their Twitter posting, if they were to go from their humor to just a very serious post about hamburgers, you'd be like, I'm so confused, because
who took the Wendy's person and
they
away?
take this very sarcastic, really funny account, and they know to.
And it might rub people the wrong way. If it's a serious post, it might feel like an attack almost, where you're like, whoa, hold on a second.
This guy or girl that
it gets really personal, because it feels like your best friend. You're like, why is my best friend acting so weird? Like, what's wrong with you? People will call you out for it. So, listen to the feedback. I think if anything, there is constructive criticism to comments, and there's also comments that are not going to be constructive. But if your audience is saying, they're not responding at all, or they're kind of like, what is this talking about? If they're confused or they're showing concern, that's a red flag, and you want to make sure you're kind of returning to a cohesive voice again.
I think engagement in comment or in captions is important too. You can ask a question in a caption, and even like, I think it kind of depends on the business. Obviously you can ask for like people's life stories, but that's not really like, no one's going to sit on Instagram and write a comment about, that's not like, normal really to sit and write like paragraph after paragraph. But even just asking, for people to pick the difference between 2 different emojis, and people just respond with the emoji or whatever. Just asking simple questions, even like yes or no questions, or what is your favorite product? If you show like 5, picture of 5 products, like which one's your favorite? That one I was engaging on Instagram with this company in Hawaii, Kaloa Rum Company, and they posted an image that had like 5 different products, and they asked, and it had like over 300 comments, and they had so many other posts that where they didn't ask questions that had like maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And so this one, just a quick, easy answer, like what's your favorite flavor? People go in and answer.
They feel compelled.
Yeah, because you want to show that brand like, hey, I use your product. Here's my favorite. It's something fun as a user to experience that connection with a brand.
Yeah.
Even like even a bigger brand too. It's kind of fun, and what I thought was important too is they were responding.
Right.
They are engaging back,
Really
which I think is really important because you don't want to ask questions and then just let it
Yeah.
go.
Ignore.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, because then people aren't going to comment on your stuff anymore. They're not going to want to engage if you're not engaging back.
Yeah.
We actually have a client where we did that for their Instagram. We asked people about the products that this company, provides, and we asked a question, and we got more comments than they've ever gotten on any other post. And it was exciting, and we were responding. The whole team essentially was responding and being engaging with that client's community, and it taught us a lot about that community and audience because we are helping create content for our client alongside them to make sure that it's reaching their audience and kind of directly speaking to them in a way that a normal human would. And so it's so important to like ask questions and pretend like these people are people you can talk to because they will respond and you will be surprised. Literally go ask a question on any social platform and people are more or less likely to respond.
Yeah, I realized how much that bothers me actually, because now I think about certain celebrities that I don't even necessarily want to like their post, and it's not, I just feel like, what is the point?
Yeah.
Because they will never acknowledge it, and
Right.
if I comment, like sometimes there was some girl from The Bachelor, and like I really liked her lip gloss. It's a dumb moment, but whatever. I liked it, so I commented like, "What is your lip gloss?" Thinking like maybe she will respond and say. She didn't. So then I'm like, you know what? What's the point? I'm not going to even comment.
Yeah.
And she's not, Coca-Cola or some
Right.
of the big brands, and those brands do respond to their customers, and they're doing it right.
Yeah.
So it shows
Target does
that.
a really
If
good
she-
job of that.
Yeah.
Did respond, you would have been like fan for
Oh
life.
yeah, and I
Oh,
would
yeah,
have gotten that
absolutely.
lip gloss. I would have
Absolutely.
supported
Yeah.
Sephora or something.
Yeah.
But
Yes, if you respond, that person is going to think you are loyal to like as a company, as someone just. It's like you're in a room and you're asking someone a question and they don't respond to you. It's the most awful thing ever. Please don't do that. So make sure you have a team member or some sort of team or service that's going to be engaging with your community, whatever platform you're on, and making sure you're on it, that you're responding. Even if I would say within 24 hours is pretty safe as a company to respond to anyone, whether it's a direct message, whether it's a comment. You can just like a comment, you don't have to respond, but just to know that this brand is listening is important to people.
Yeah.
So one other thing I wanted to talk about was, so that's the curated feed, right? So that's where you're posting photos or 1-minute videos or images, and you wanted to, as you said, have some sort of style and form. I think on the other side, almost like the reverse, is the stories aspect of it. And we all know that they ripped it off from Snapchat. Everyone was saying, oh, how unoriginal. But the thing took off. Everyone is on Instagram stories now. Hardly anyone's on Snapchat or Snapchat.
yeah.
But it worked. And so I'm really fascinated by the difference between what they call ephemeral content, which is basically what stories are. They last for 15 seconds and they only stay on your platform for 24 hours, then they disappear, because that is changing the psychology of how we use Instagram. It used to be extremely curated, and the founder of Instagram said when they launched stories, he said he hadn't posted anything on his Instagram for a week himself because nothing was Instagrammable. And so with stories, suddenly he could...
No, it's true. It's absolutely true.
Whereas with a story, you can be like, oh, look, we're filming this here, story time.
Yeah.
And then, because we know it's going to be gone in 24 hours. But I also think there's something about it that is purposely lo-fi or low-tech.
Yep.
Right.
I don't know. So I just wanted to get your
Yeah,
opinions on
that's
that.
so true.
Yeah, I think it's just something where it's a little bit more like your natural day-to-day,
Stories.
stuff. And it is hard because, like you said, it's not like he wasn't posting because it wasn't Instagrammable.
Yeah.
And that is something where that wasn't what Instagram was at first. Anything was Instagrammable in 2010. Anything.
Yeah.
And now we've gotten to a point where it is very curated and there are, there's like a certain way you want your feed to look or a story you want your feed to tell. And there are just certain moments that maybe don't fit into that, which I think is okay. And I thought it was great when they introduced stories because now there is a space for that on Instagram, which I think works really well for especially like businesses like behind the scenes.
Yes.
Like that stuff is great. Like you're at a photo shoot, you're doing some behind the scenes, you're kind of showing people that we're normal people just doing day-to-day things, and I think that that's really important, and it's not something where you have to worry so much about, well, is the color right, are you sure like those blues aren't too blue, or it doesn't have to match a grid because it's not being seen with other images. And then the introduction of highlights I think is great too, because if there is something that you want to keep in your stories per se, you can highlight that, and so you can have products or a series of something, or so I think it's nice to have kind of a more natural personal feel through stories that you don't always get through like the Instagram grid.
Definitely.
People are definitely having fun with stories though, like in terms of design. I know you see ads, and I think stories are just came at a point where Instagram was already a big community, so it introduced a video feature that I think had to grow on people for a little bit, but it really grew, and I don't know necessarily the exact statistic if people are more active on stories versus Snapchat.
It's stats. I think it's
stats.
It's I think 500 million people. I could be wrong on this, but it's about 500 million stories per day are posted.
Wow.
So if you think there's 500 million people going on Instagram every day, that's
Right.
one per user, and it may not. Obviously, not everyone's posting stories,
Right.
but that's a pretty big uptake. Not that many people are posting photos or videos. I think it's like 95 million a day. Photos and videos.
So that's a tip there, is that most people will watch your stories or look at your stories versus looking at your feed post, because at this point, I mean, video is king. Video is attractive. In fact, stories that are videos or have sound are actually more likely to be watched. Like, not everyone is, trying to watch a story in a quiet place and don't want their sound on. Most people are wanting to, hear and see things moving. So if you're trying to, focus on one area of Instagram, stories is really powerful. And then posting photos can be more infrequent, which I think most people are doing. So it's just because stories are just so much more visually entertaining and casual, which kind of is a testament to what people want. They do want a casual feel. They do want to feel like we're all just kind of hanging out, and they do want to see some cool content, but if it was all like that, we would just go back to our feed, So
you're expecting it to be relaxed.
Right.
So I think one of the most appealing things about stories, or the enticing things, is it's only going to last 24 hours. So when you see that little circle around someone's name, you just can't help it. You have to have a look. If you like that person, it's a friend or celebrity, someone you follow, you're kind of like, oh, I want to see it, because you have this FOMO that you're going to, it won't be there, right?
Right.
So that psychology is just built into it. And so I think for brands, it's really useful too, if they're actually using that to their advantage, where they're posting every couple of days or every day with their stories. It kind of gives not just that behind the scenes thing, but it's also, what is it? I don't want to miss it. I better have a look. There's that as well.
And there's also a whole other level of engagement on stories. You have the questions, polls, so many different ways to ask questions, engage with your audience on stories, and it's something to it goes away in 24 hours. So people are like, if I want to answer this or I want to engage, I have to do it now because it's going to be gone. So I think it's really interesting that they have allowed that engagement to continue on through stories, even though it is kind of a more casual thing. I think that's also something that's important, is to keep up on that.
The 24 hours thing is, I literally blew my mind just a moment ago, because I'm like, wow, everything is going to delete. So you want to watch everything. If you miss a day, you're like, I missed whatever content was posted yesterday.
It's over.
So people are more likely to watch stories because that content is going to disappear. And if they miss out on something, they miss out on it. Now obviously you can save stuff, but I just, I'm like, wow, that is why we watch it and engage with it more, is because it's gone in the next day. And I I think that's probably the tool that Instagram won't remove for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, even YouTube has started YouTube Stories. Facebook has obviously their version of it, but that's the thing with Instagram. There's something about that appeal of it's current and it's like going to disappear. So you better go on Instagram. I better go on right now.
Yeah.
And just check it.
What did I miss?
Yeah. And I do it. I'm shameless. So if I have 5 seconds, I'm just like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
You can't help it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just want to know like what people are doing, what's new in the feed.
Exactly.
And that's something too with stories disappearing in 24 hours. I think that Snapchat, kind of where they're kind of beating Snapchat, because Snapchat you watch it once, and I know that if you like hold it down, you can replay it. But if you hold the image down and you don't watch it right away and you click out of the app and go back, you can't watch it anymore.
Yeah.
So you really can't like rewatch anything on Snapchat. So I definitely think that like for businesses, Instagram for that kind of content is the way to go.
Yeah.
And one more thing I've noticed a lot is that the direct messaging that you have from stories, there's a lot of engagement, just personally, but also with brands, is, you know, if they like someone, if someone is watching a story, they can comment straight away and it goes into a DM. So it creates an individual conversation. And I have a ton of those every day now where people just comment on what I do.
Yeah.
And you just start having a chat to them in DMs because of the story. So it's a great way to kind of prompt connection and engagement. And maybe it won't happen as much for brands, but it could. I mean, you never know. If you,
it does.
If you have engaging content.
If you hadn't noticed, if people are not hearing from you, they will try and DM you on your... I mean, I've reached out to... I mean, it happened, I think, first on Twitter, where people were reaching out to brands because they had a complaint.
Yes.
But I think there's an equal amount of evidence that there's a positive like feedback wheel going on with Instagram DMs, that people will like things or ask questions, and it's like another level of customer service. But if people don't hear from you, the place they'll go to find you is social media, because it's almost like an expectation for you to respond, and if you don't, it's like a bad like, negative point on the brand. So it is super important to respond to DMs as well.
No, and that stands out too, because I had an issue with a flight a couple months ago, and so I couldn't get a hold of the company on the phone. The lines were too long. I couldn't, and it was
traditional communication.
And it was something urgent that I needed fixed, and so I was like, what can I do? So my first thought was Instagram. I know they have an Instagram. I know they engage. I'm gonna go slide into their DMs with my issue, and sure enough, they were so quick to respond, got my issue fixed, and I am a loyal customer of Hawaiian Airlines. So because they are great with kind of that like second level of customer service, which I think is something really important and to consider, especially if you are a brand that is selling a product or something like that where people are kind of coming to you with questions. I think that's really important.
For sure. Yeah, I think stories are definitely it's a huge shift in just the way social media works in general, not just for Instagram, but I think Instagram was the one who kind of pushed it to the popular, stage, whereas I remember with Snapchat, you always had to explain what it was, whereas with Instagram stories, it just makes sense. You just know how to do it.
Right.
So that's what's really cool. So the last one I wanted to talk about briefly was IGTV or Instagram TV, which is, people love it, people hate it, and I wanted to get your perspectives on it. Do you think Instagram having its own video platform is good? Is it useful? What are your opinions?
I mean, I think we're going in the direction of, like Stacey said, video is king. Like, video is only going to continue to get more important and more valuable. And I think just like Instagram stories, where people were kind of hesitant at first, like, oh, it's just Snapchat. It's not going to take off. It's not going to take off. And here we are. And I think that IGTV is kind of in that phase right now where people are like, oh, I don't know if it's going to work, not super interested in it yet, but I think within like the next year, it's going to be huge. It's going to be something that we're all watching all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's the trajectory of it.
Yeah, there's still some things that I think they're testing right now, and I mean, that's what the good thing about brands, like if you're an online brand mainly, this is the reason why Amazon, Google, big brands have stood the test of time, but seemingly haven't changed drastically over time, is because they're always working on small details to finesse. So Instagram has done that too. They've rolled out, these things within a span of 9 years, but in a way where it's almost like we don't notice it.
Yeah.
And so people are still discovering it and trying to understand that. And I think IGTV is definitely that.
Yeah.
There's still, like, you can use hashtags and people will find your IGTV video, but there's still a hard sort of way to find a lot of IGTV videos within the space that it's in. So I think they're probably going to roll out more features potentially within the next year. I don't know how fast they're going to go with it, but I don't think it's going to leave anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't think
so.
so.
It's worth preparing content for it. Maybe not making it your most important space to create content, but you can repurpose YouTube videos. You can repurpose maybe stories that you recorded that you're like, I should just save this as a video, and it will be there for however long it will be there. And so when IGTV becomes a thing, people will have content to go see. A bigger thing. I mean, it already is probably pretty expansive because everyone's on Instagram anyways. I think a lot of influencers are taking advantage of it, but they're still trying to figure out how to make it unique content compared to their other platforms like YouTube. So I'm interested to see how they're going to make it more visible and engaging, because it is a little hard to find sometimes.
Yeah.
That's my only qualm.
Well, just recently they have it now that you can preview a video in your feed.
Yes.
So that's really helped. And I've noticed that with my own IGTV videos. If I put it as a preview, it gets a lot more views because people just start watching it as a video in the normal feed.
Because it just stops you when you're scrolling and you watch it. Yeah.
And then after a minute, if they want to continue, it says, hey, go and watch the whole video. It's 7 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever.
And the button's right there.
Yeah.
Right? It's like
So
right
it's
on the post.
really
It just says
easy.
keep watching and
Yeah.
you click it and it just takes, you don't have to search for it really.
Which is what it was like 6 months ago. So I think that's going to change the way people, and you're just getting familiar with that idea of, this is a full video inside Instagram. I can watch this whole episode or whatever. That's different as well. It wasn't like that before. Instagram was little bite-sized things, and now it's becoming a little YouTube. And then the vertical video aspect of it, I think it's interesting because as content creators, it's a challenge. You've got to shoot in a different format. You've got to edit differently. Your arms out of the shot, like all these weird things. It's hard to shoot the same way, but I think it's also going to lead to content becoming more creative in some ways because people can use their phone more, and that's what I think they built that for, was the idea of, hey, this is meant to be almost like I was saying with the stories, almost like lower tech video that's more engaging.
Yes. So if you're worried about equipment, we definitely advise making the highest quality content possible within whatever budget you have. But most everyone has a smartphone, and like I said, these platforms are pretty free to sign up with. So literally taking photos with your iPhone or Android or whatever smartphone your choice is, there's already a really high quality camera built in. So it's just a matter of making sure, and there's free editing apps for lighting, and within photo apps itself has editing tools. It's just a matter of kind of learning a little bit how to do it, but you don't need to go out and buy, a $3,000 camera right now. But it's definitely an investment, and the better quality it is, the better, people experiences will have with your content. So.
And even a lot of the editing apps are free, or even just really low, like a low cost, which is totally doable, like $3 a month or something for some of these apps. So it really is, you can make a lot of content on a very low budget.
And get super high engagement too. That's the thing. It doesn't have to be super high quality or high budget to make it engaging.
It's the content that's really important. I mean, you can have the nicest camera in the world and have really boring content and it doesn't matter. No one's going to engage. So it really is, while production value is important, it's only so important as like the content. Like that's really where you kind of need to hone in and just get that engagement and get out that content that people want to see.
Have a balance.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yep.
Any thoughts?
No, I think we covered it all.
Okay. Well, final question. It's a little bit loaded, but final question. Do you think businesses should be on Instagram in 2019? Yes or no?
Oh.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. If your business, I can't think of a business where it wouldn't really work for anyone. I can see some businesses thriving in terms of sales more. So let's say you're like, a chemical, if you're like a business that, is like a distributor, or like you're a very niche market and like your sales is really traditional, you're probably not going to get a ton of traffic on your social media. However, it will be like a portfolio piece that people find trustworthy, and you might get referrals that way.
Yep.
So whether you're more traditional in getting your services from people to buy from you or whatever, I would still say have some kind of social presence and be where your audience is, because no one's going to see you if they're not there. But pretty much everyone has an Instagram and pretty much everyone has a Facebook. So if you're on at least one of those, it's going to work out for you in the end. And I think not having an Instagram is probably more harmful, because you never know. Like, if you're a business where you're not selling a lot of your services through, the mass people, maybe you're looking for people to come work for you. Maybe you want to have your, business be all your culture and your team, and show your services in a way that's nice on social media and attracts people who want to work for you, who are in a younger generation and do have Instagram. So I think that works well too. Even if you're not like gonna get any sales, I would say you're still probably gonna get benefits out of it that you may have not thought of, like having people work for you who found you on Instagram. So
yeah, I was gonna say, if it was 2012 and it was the focus of having this artistic piece, or what we perceived to be artistic, then I could make the argument that, maybe if you sell like mechanical pieces, it's not going to be the best fit. But now, like what Stacy was saying, you could serve so many different purposes just by purely having an account. Even if you just want to, focus your team on your team members and not even really showcase your product, that is easily applicable to any company.
Company culture.
Yeah.
If you just want to show kind of who you are, explain a little bit about what you do, and just kind of make it more about the people that work at your company, like that is, content enough. If you're not really even doing sales through social media, you still have that content there where people can go back and say, oh, they're real people that work there. This is a credible company. I'm engaging with them. I don't think there's really a downside to businesses being active on social media.
Yeah.
Great.
Totally.
Yeah. And I just think of Instagram as it's literally a tool for engagement. There's so many ways you can use it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it is, I personally think if you're not using it, you're just missing out on huge amounts of potential attention. And if you work on it, it's kind of like with any tool. If you use it for a while, you get better at it, and then you figure out what works for you and your brand and your audience.
Right.
You will get that attention and that engagement. It just takes time.
I think the focus, like the heart behind it, and there's some businesses who have chosen not to be on social media for reasons we won't discuss, but some people are like, oh, social media, like I can't, it's not authentic anymore, it's changed. And I think there is some case to be said for that, but at the same time, it's still very community and authentic oriented. So as long as you're having a mindset of, I want to remain authentic, I want to be building an authentic community, and I want to remain loyal to my vision and my values as a brand and just attract like-minded people, I think you're going to thrive, and you're going to find the right community, and you're not going to feel frustrated all the time. As long as you kind of treat it as a fun, sort of happy place, I think people will vibe with that. And if you treat it like it's always making everyone worse at what they're doing, I just don't see how that's more helpful. So I think if you choose to be on social media, come with the mindset of being authentic and true to your brand values and building a positive community that people can engage with you in.
Yeah.
So that's what
All right. Go Instagram.
Yes.
we're big fans.
All right. Well, I think that's our first roundtable discussion. Thank you, everyone, for contributing. And I'm going to go on Instagram right now.
All of us.
We'll be back next time. If you do have any comments or questions, put them down below. We will answer them all. We will reply to every single one.
Yes.
And if you have any suggestions for topics you'd like us to talk about in the future, let us know. We look forward to sharing more with you in the future. That's all from Brandastic today. Chat soon.
Signing out.
Ta-da! How long was that?
And now the outro.